Oh my god, he's cheating on his wife and now he wants to be a better man. Holy sweet jeez. Welcome to the Mids Watch, guys. It's Ryan here. This one's gonna be a good... Actually, this is funny. I was just talking about this on a live stream when I was recording this one, which, you know, keep an eye on the channel, like, subscribe. Occasionally I record these all live. There's a whole bunch of after stuff that goes on there. I leave them up for like a week or two, and then I release them as a Patreon reward for the guys that show up at the Patreon. It's a pretty cool like add-on for them where they can see like how the sausage is made, so it's always kind of neat. Anyway, this one is about, he calls it Overdread, but in reality, it's like a whole bunch of different concepts thrown around. It deals with the sexual market value and the connection between that and dread. It deals with people accepting the consequences of their decisions, not just men, but also women. And the idea of, you mean to tell me there's a red pill and blue pilled way to cheat? It's like, yes, there kind of is. That's why, and you always hear it so like autistically mentioned when you see like the red pill Jerry Springer stuff out there. It's like high value men should be allowed to cheat. It's like, it's not about a should. It's about ultimately the motivations for it and whether your fidelity is more important than your commitment. Which sounds weird, but we'll get into it. This one's from a guy, Alpha Beta 49. Fun fact, if you guys want to hear about the iceberg, when I joined the Married Red Pill, there was 4 of us that joined that week. There was me, there was a good friend of mine, Bogey D6, an oil executive, pretty slick. There was Zach Small, who at the time was calling himself Training the Brain, or you might recognize him as the Hunter Alpha. And this 4th guy, Alpha Beta 49. So it kind of gives me some nostalgia realizing as he's running through his stuff, it's like, dude, this would have been when I was running through mine too. It's like 7 years ago now, or 8 years almost. It seems like we've been talking a lot about dread lately. See my post history, blah, blah, blah. The TLDR of it is he had an affair. It gave him some built-in dread, which seemed to work well once he spelled it out. Unfortunately, that very nature of dread has made his wife extremely insecure, and she's going through an identity crisis to boot. So he decided to cheat on his wife a few years ago. You know, she was ignoring him in favor of the new baby, and he was the beta bitch who didn't know how to properly, you know, man up. When he was caught almost 3 years ago, he was assigned to the doghouse and a steady dose of groveling and paying for it. And it took me some courage after I swallowed the pill last October to help her understand her contribution to the affair. I didn't blame her. I don't cease to admit that cheating was not a smart choice, but ever since then, the quality and the quantity of sex has increased, and last month especially approached a level of awesomeness that dating had not been. Did have a major hiccup though last night. Aunt Flo was visiting, so she enthusiastically offered a blowjob. Her initiation, her enthusiasm, all good. Ran the gamut, started tender and sensitive, ended up face fucking her. Oh, how romantic. Fantastic. And then 15 seconds from finishing, she stops and checks to see if one of the kids is awake, which is the exact type of behavior he hates. He loses momentum. It's midnight, so he's like, yeah, you lost me. Let's just go to bed. No biggie. I had fun anyway. It was generally outcome independent. This zaps her hamster wheel, and the poor thing can't even keep up. She starts freaking out and worrying that she didn't satisfy him and that he'll cheat in the morning. Kept repeating the question, am I the best you've ever had? She's crying, she's shaking. She's like, holy cow, where did this all come from? Turns out she'd felt obligated to have sex with him for the mate retention. While she enjoys it once we get into it, her main motivation is to keep him happy. There seems to be little raw attraction. And on top of that, she's out of shape, but starting a training business soon, and the gym is full of full-length mirrors. So this former hot, confident college athlete is confronted with her lack of fitness and attractiveness due to focusing on everybody else and not taking care of herself. So his analysis, she uses the affair to justify her mood, where she treats the kids poorly, how she doesn't get anything done some days. It's starting to sound like a pity party, even though I'm sure she's genuinely hurting. I wish she would found the red pill and get motivated herself. There's obviously a huge comfort test here, but providing pure comfort, you know, I'll never cheat on you again, baby. I'll always be faithful. You're the love of my life, etc., 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 will only serve to make her comfortable and encourage apathy. I don't know yet how to balance alpha or desire with beta and comfort. The embedded, am I the best you've ever had shit tests, he's chosen not to answer. Don't know if that's the best idea. He should have told her flat out, I cheated because we weren't having sex, and then she added sex to her weekly checklists. I don't want duty sex, I want genuine desire, and telling her so bluntly was a giant attraction negotiation, and she felt she had no options. She needs to get her life together. Smaller and smaller things are overwhelming her, which is in stark contrast to my improvement, where it's going the opposite direction. I hate that she sees me as a chore, and gosh, that's a disgusting, worthless feeling. The answer to all this, lead my family, take charge of her diet, make sure the schedule allows time for her to work out, and become more attractive to increase attraction. This is my opinion. I'd like to hear from you guys. It's a bit difficult, as I have to take care of her, and I'm just now getting used to taking care of myself. So, postscripts, like I'm in the middle of this. I'll post another field report when the dust settles. Couple thoughts before we get on this one. So, I told you in the very beginning of the episode, there's a difference between red pill and blue pill cheating? It's like, yes, there is. And this is the example. Blue pill cheating is validation. His wife wasn't sleeping with him, and so the first girl that gave him a whiff, he took it because he wanted to feel like, remember the couple episodes back where I talked about the guy who based his whole net worth on whether his wife was having sex with him or not? It's kind of that, but not as extreme. And then when you get caught, that first off, the term caught is essentially a blue pill term. It means that she is the judge and she gets to judge you as a bad person, and hence you got caught cheating in front of the referee. And then a lot of groveling will come, a lot of like forgiveness, basically the same way you throw yourself on the funeral pyre, oh, please forgive me, Jesus. And it's not Jesus, it's just Karen. Red pill, on the other hand, is just understanding that you have things that you want in your life. You want a healthy sex life. And if your wife is not giving it to you, you'll get it elsewhere. It doesn't mean you love your wife any less. It doesn't mean you're going to be any less of a father or any of that stuff. But you're not doing it for validation. You're literally just scratching an itch. It's like, oh, she gets first crack at my libido, not sole custody. And if you get caught, although the term isn't really accurate, there's no real term for it yet in the space, but anyways, once she discovers your infidelity, it's not apologetic. It's more, the answer is more like, what did you think was going to happen? And so she can make the decision. She's like, okay, she can leave over that if she wants to. That's her choice. You can't tell her what to think. But more often than not, you're establishing that, yeah, it's just sex and you weren't giving it. And that's totally up to you. It's your decision. You don't have to. But then I'm going to get laid. Doesn't matter. And funny enough, that ends up being an attractive quality. That's like pre-selection. It's girls, because she doesn't lose her commitment, but she's losing the tingles. It's a really weird thing, and I'm not going to suggest it as like a general relationship advice. Cheat on your girl and then unapologetically tell her to don't worry about it. It's like, it's not how it works. But, so it goes the two different ways. Now, and you know what? Instead of my thoughts, I'm going to get into Jack's, because I think he and I are going to be remarkably consistent on our thing here. Yeah, he starts off. Cheating increases dread without a corresponding increase in sexual market value. And I believe this is the root of your problem. Your previous posts have indicated you're still struggling on accomplishing a lot of the goals in your life outside your marriage. Besides some enhanced muscle definition, from going to the gym, I'm sure you bought a few articles of clothing, but are you materially better than you were a year ago? Or to ask this another way, have you objectively increased your value since swallowing the red pill? The answer, in my opinion, is probably not. Your wife is feeling something like dread level 8 out of 10, but your SMV is still stationary at a 6. Enough for your wife to be terrified you'll cheat on her again, but not so much for her to accept this as a possible outcome if she doesn't keep her high-value man happy. A few years ago, I was watching The Sopranos with my wife on DVD, and after one of those episodes, highlighted the anguish Carmela feels because she has to look the other way when it comes to Toadie's comeres, which I think is like the mistresses. My wife said to me, I don't worry about you cheating on me. I do sometimes wonder if you'll ever tell me if you're just going to start seeing other women, because I think I would basically just have to accept it. And it kind of caught me out of the blue, but I thought about it later. My wife has been pretty damn good, and she knows it, and she does her best to keep it that way. She also knows it's possible that, despite her doing her best, my value is high enough as a man that her best may not be good enough for me. And this is the headspace where you need to get your wife. Acceptance. She's married to a high-value man. She's doing everything she can to make you happy. Will he cheat? Hopefully not. Can she do anything about it? Well, She's already doing what she can. So why agonize over this?
Single moms. A horrible position that's not my problem.
And he's like, so your idea of just leading the family, it's part of the answer. Like I said, you've got a marriage at dread level 8, but your SMV is 6, and your wife is probably something like a 4 or 5 herself. What you're suggesting is investing your time and effort in getting her SMV to a 6. If she drops 20 pounds, she may feel better about herself, less freaked out about you having another affair, because that will be because she'll feel better about her odds of finding somebody better in the inevitable divorce that would happen if you cheated again. Acceptance of this idea will probably not manifest as her getting dripping wet to fuck her 6th husband. To clarify, I'm not suggesting you want her to stay as a fat ass, but if she increases her SMV and you don't, that will reduce the dread, given there's no longer going to be the disparity between how attractive you two are, but she'll just go from feeling like she has to fuck you out of obligation to not feeling that way anymore. She'll nag you less, and she'll also fuck you less. Now, had you not cheated, you could have organically increased your sexual market value and had a much less confrontational evolution of your marriage than what you're experiencing now. Other guys hit the gym, drop some extra weight, marriage goes from something like dread level 1 to 3, enough to get his wife's attention, but not something that's going to cause her to freak out and go nuts over the comfort tests and cry after a blowjob. Unfortunately, you don't have that luxury, so yeah, your cheating just turned up the difficulty level in your marriage from hard to ultra violence. It's a Doom reference, I think. The bigger gap in the value between you and your wife, the more she'll freak out because you're in a marriage that has very little tolerance for additional dread caused by the sexual attraction disparities. But if you help her increase hers at the expense of your own, then she won't even give you the duty sex that you're getting somewhat bored with. So you pretty much need to thread the needle here. Help her increase her value enough so she stops freaking out about your cheating, but increase your own so that she replaces that obligation to fuck you with an actual desire to fuck you. And it's funny because he comes back with it and he's like, not gonna lie, it's probably the most discouraging thing I've read on this site. And he's like, no, the more discouraging thing you've read on this site is this. I bet you couldn't get divorced now even if you tried. And I'm not saying that to be a dick, but seriously, just try to picture you trying to have that conversation with your wife right now. Even if you tried to be as magnanimous as possible and say, look, I made too many mistakes, I hurt everybody, and this is the better way stuff, your wife would become hysterical. Absolutely goddamned hysterical. She'd have a full-blown meltdown, alternate between hating you and blaming herself. She'd call her parents. Her parents might even call you. You'd have to start making all sorts of awkward decisions, starting the same night. Are you two really going to sleep in the same bed after you just dropped the D-bomb on her? You'll cave. I guarantee you'll cave. You'll feel so shitty about everything and how bad you're making your wife feel and witness your kids being ripped apart firsthand, and all you'll have to say is, okay, let's get divorced, and this will all get fixed. Well, sort of. Except for like your affairs, the damage will have been done. Your wife is operating with an anxiety level that's permanently affixed at that dread level of 8. Now she'll be operating at, 10? 11? She's just going to be nuts. She'll even be more terrified of cheating and divorce because you've cheated and you've tried to get divorced. And then you'll come back here talking about how you've gone half-cocked on yet another thing in your life and how you seem to be paying the price for it over and over and over again. It's like, look, even though I said all the above would be discouraging, it doesn't have to be because you didn't actually do this kind of stuff yet. I was just outlining how I could very easily see this sequence of events happening in your life, and I'm urging you, slow the fuck down. Yes, threading the needle is hard, but knowing you, it's something that you gotta commit to, because if it fails, you'll at least have the mental fortitude to follow through on the next natural step, which is divorce, because for perhaps one of the few times in your life, you'll be able to say to yourself, well, I fucked up, but I really did do everything I could to fix it. It just wasn't good enough, and then you can be okay with that. So you know, with 100% certainty, your marriage had too much scar tissue to ever heal in the way that you and your wife wanted. Which means you can deal with the short-term pain everybody feels with a divorce because you're confident it is in everybody's best interest and you didn't just hear some random asshole on the internet tell you that it was. So when you say you need to make a decision, it's like you don't. That was the whole point of Imagine suggesting divorce mental exercise. Thread the needle. It's the only decision you can make right now. It's going to be hard. It's going to be easy to get discouraged and pity yourself for bad decisions you made, blah, 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 blah. It's a Herculean task. But it may not be impossible. It's only impossible in that not attempting it, it's a certainty. Personally, I think it's possible. When you deconstruct the macro steps needed to make this happen, it's pretty much a list that includes 3 things. Continue to improve, acting more responsible and achievement-oriented, success in the beta stuff in your life. Accomplish some major macro goals in your life, like advancing in your career. Provide a family structure that enables success for everybody, not just you. It's up to your wife to decide whether she wants to succeed or not, and that's it. That's the list. That's all what threading the needle really looks like. Can you do that? It's up to you. I mean, at least in failure, you know that there's nothing you can do about it, right? Now, I'll cut it off here because he goes in again, he starts doing some pity party stuff, and then Jack kind of chimes in, and I could talk about this for like an hour, but it's essentially just rehashing the same points. So yeah, sometimes you come from that blue pill cheating position. How is it that you can start establishing yourself as the dominant authority in your house when you have that initial betrayal of trust? That's something hard to get past. And the answer to that is your wife just has to decide to get on board with it. And you'd have to decide, yes, you feel bad. Yes, it was a fuck up, but what else can I do? And that's all you can do is go through with a better choice of life. And this comes up too because a lot happens when guys accept that maybe they shouldn't have cheated in this case, and then the wife starts to weaponize that. As soon as anything you do goes against it, she feels any anxiety, she brings up the cheating like a weapon in hopes that you'll back down and submit. And it's actually come up before. I don't know if there's going to be a field report on the Mids Watch for it, but I think Wine More Please, which is another guy who's been around for forever, brought up a really good point. He's like, look, you chose to forgive me, and we chose to move on from this. So I cannot be sitting here constantly having this thrown against me like a weapon every time we're going to get stuff done. So you need to make a choice. Either you're going to forgive me, and we're going to move forward, or you're not going to forgive me, and we need to go the other direction. But I need you to make your choice. And that's the thing. It's like, it's her choice to make. But she doesn't get to say she forgives you and then use it as a weapon. And then that way, even through your betrayal, you can at least establish some semblance of trust. Like the idea thing there is, I get it. Anxiety, dread, worried about me cheating. If I cheat again, it's likely over. That's the ground rules. Great, I can work with that. At the same time, you try to establish oh, you're just some cheating asshole as a way of making you submit to the girl. You're like, no. That's not how this is working. I know it's weird too because I bring up the idea of real remorse versus imitation Naugahyde remorse often. And it kind of goes against that where... and if you read the article, it's like a checklist of things you can go through to see if when somebody's cheated on you, do they actually feel bad that they did it or just feel bad that they got caught? And it's like, well, aren't you acting like the guy who feels bad that you got caught? And I'm like, technically, yes, but luckily you're not a woman. And that's why it doesn't apply to you. For in your case, the sorry isn't words. The sorry is not letting her berate you with it. The sorry is you by not doing it again and fixing what the issues were. That's your sorry. And that's why you tell guys, don't apologize. Apologies are cheap. Send an expensive signal on there. Now, in his case, this all ended up working out well. And one thing I will say, too, is it's good that he had the self-awareness to recognize it. Because for a lot of guys, what they would notice is they cheated, and all of a sudden their wife is having sex with them more. And it's like hotter sex, and it's great. And they think, that's great. Everything works out well. What they don't realize is what they're getting there isn't desire. It's hysteric bonding, which is like a fight or flight response from women. The idea that their only sexuality is their only weapon or their only tool. And so when she's in a position where she's worried about losing her husband's more attractive than her husband cheated, their response has become sexually more ravenous. But I mean, it's not... When you say genuine desire, I think guys say they want their desire to be a choice, because I'm horny and I think he's hot. Which isn't really how desire works for women, so you can't really hold them to that standard. Women have sex for all kinds of reasons. Again, I've talked about it before. David Buss and Cindy Minson's Why Women Have Sex. There's 800 reasons why women have sex written in that book. And being horny is the 752nd one. Turns out that mate retention, revenge, hysteric bonding, all these other reasons. And I think when a guy reframes that by understanding that women's reasons for having sex are so much larger and more varied that they really kind of get over the reasons. Like when I say don't care got laid, there's some validity to it, right? Sometimes she just sleeps with it because you have a business trip tomorrow and she wants to make sure you leave with your balls empty so you don't get any bright ideas when you're sitting there in Vegas talking with the clients about your new booze line or whatever, you know? Is that genuine desire? Well, no, she's just doing it to keep me loyal. Yeah, heaven forbid. Is it enthusiastic? Oh, yeah, she did rock my world. I'm like, maybe just be happy with that. Because this hysteric bonding, again, it's a good thing. She wants to keep you happy. But at the same time, you like this woman, you love this woman, and she's got like a spiral of anxiety. And in this case, it's not the sex he wants to fix there, it's the anxiety. But you want to do it in such a way that doesn't just remove any desire. Because you'd be surprised how many guys came from a position of being in hysteric bonding and think the way to fix that situation is to turn their bedroom into a dead bedroom. And it's like, no, man, you gotta thread that needle. And as the idea is replacing that anxiety over losing you with a love and admiration and respect for keeping you, with a little bit of the anxiety of possibly losing you. And then once you get these things all together, and where does the line for you? I mean, that depends. Every guy is going to have a different level of comfort. Every girl is going to have a different threshold for anxiety. Every girl is going to have like a different motivation to sleep with you. Like if your girlfriend is 23, she's going to be sleeping you for different reasons than when she's 29, than when she's 35, than when she's 45. So don't worry too much about genuine desire, because for a woman, genuine desire has 15 different meanings, of which only one of them are the reason that you have sex. But yeah, don't worry about it. Plus, if you're at some dinner party and that single friend from her work starts to flirt with you, and you get home and your wife starts to blow you right there in the entranceway, it's genuine enough. Even if it is just to make sure that that redhead from work's a bitch and don't ever forget what you got at home. I can live with that. You need to learn it too. So that's all I got for you guys. I think I've talked about blowjobs enough for one day. I'm going to catch you on the next episode. Cheers.